about Ascendient Learning, for those of you who might not be familiar, we provide IT training. We cover a spectrum of organizational needs at every skill level. We offer vendor authorized training and certifications for our individuals. We also offer customized courses for teams that can actually be developed to accomplish project end goals, and even specialized programs tailored to organizations at scale. So we cover a huge range of things. In addition to that, you might see here at the bottom, we've recently now are a part of Accenture Learn Vantage. So we're really excited about where our training capabilities are going to be expanded. So in addition to that, and our training and our capabilities with Accenture Learn Vantage, we do have a really large library of resources, much like today's webinar, actually. So we do tend to see some requests asking to run a session internally for someone's organization or team, which we can certainly do. It is a really great resource and typically a first step towards learning about AI and, the first ways that you can take advantage of it for you and your team. So if that's something you might be interested in, I'm going to share contact info in the chat after this, where you can get in touch with one of our SMEs to discuss further. But with that said, I want to get to why we're all here, and I'm going to introduce our instructor for today. So Armando Galeana, he is a data scientist and agentic AI architect. He's also the founder of Digital Ethos Consulting and a lecturer at institutions such as Caltech, Purdue, and Brown. In addition to teaching for us at Ascendient Learning, he teaches AI courses for us and upskilling programs. He has also guided enterprises, governments, and academia in responsibly adopting advanced AI. Armando actually specializes in designing multi-agent systems that balance performance with ethical governance, and actually has a focus on creating technology that benefits society. So I'm incredibly excited to announce and introduce him and kind of kick off our session. So that's it from me, but I'll be in the chat.
So, Alex, thank you very, very much. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you very much, everyone, for attending. So, before we kick off, I will share a few links that you may find interesting. First off, so listen, as Alex said, I am specialized in consulting, so I guide organizations to adapt artificial intelligence to the needs in the different business processes, right? Whether if it's like invoicing or human resources or logistics. And a growing need has been in software development, like across the software engineering process. There's been so much need to expedite features, test faster, build more reliable applications, and reduce the overall cycle. And we know there are many tasks that are very time consuming, like documentation, sometimes putting all the tests together, all the different unit tests, sometimes even that communication that happens between the customer and product, and then from product management to development or to the sprint lead, and then create documentation, and then touch base with UX and UI, and then generate something the customer likes. And by the time all that passes, it's been like 2 weeks. And then we go back to the customer says like, I don't like it. Or I want to include this additional feature or remove this button. Then you start over again. So the cycles are very long. So then with all these new requests, the question is, how as software engineers, instead of falling behind and doing things manually, how can you ramp up your skills? How can you incorporate all these new technologies to make sure that you can expedite your deliverables and increase their quality? And that's the reason why we're here. So in this webinar, it's again going from Copilot to Creator, and I will show you how to leverage on different tools, including GitHub Copilot and different LLMs and scripts, so you can create very cool products. Okay? Now, these I would share the repository for this specific webinar that you can clone, um, you can experiment with it alongside myself. Okay, so I will send this over to you, and I will explain, what we're going to do. Okay, so first, we're going to be telling the difference, between being a copilot or using a copilot and really create something, right? In the context of software engineering, okay? Then I will show you how to put together kind of a pipeline, chain of activities. Very simple, but we'll create something really, really cool using both Copilot and using large language models. What we're going to do is we're going to create a fast API application. There's the backend for the sake of time. And then I will go through the contents of the actual program. I see there are some questions. We'll take questions, at the end, or you can type it down so I can answer them as we go. So the first thing is why Copilot matters so much in software engineering. I mean, we hear like GitHub Copilot, and there's a cursor, and we see like all these vibe coding. So why do they matter now, and how is the landscape going to change moving forward? Okay. Then I will let you know what we're building today, a little bit about the course, and how to get the most of the webinar. Right? Okay. So first, today we've seen tons of copilots. Right? Again, you have GitHub Copilot. There's Gemini Code Assist. There's Claude Code. There's Code GPT, and you have a gazillion of copilots that can be integrated with your IDEs. There's Codex. So there are a gazillion of different tools that can be integrated now in in the life cycle of software development to produce different artifacts. But something that I've noticed is that most people, they don't know how to make the most of those copilots. And also, I've noticed that it's not only about those copilots, but it's also about integrating coding scripts that, alongside with the copilots, can help you produce very high quality artifacts, like your PRDs, like your user stories, the code, your actual code for the front end, for the back end, to generate your tests, which we know that can take a lot of time, but we want to expedite as much as possible, such that I will try my best of my ability throughout this webinar to go from a prompt requirement to a functional backend application with testing, just using Copilot. I will start from scratch. I will show you how it works, right? And then I will do it again from scratch based on something that you might decide, okay? Like a tool. So we'll also introduce some of the risks, right? Make sure that we don't only, I will not follow the guideline in this webinar on not reviewing thoroughly the specific error just for the sake of time, but that's something you should not copy. We should make sure that we validate and explain and kind of reproduce everything that we create with copilots, okay? So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to set a very big idea, and we are going to create a backend application, okay? The backend platform with all our endpoints. So we're creating from just a high-level description, which is what a customer will give you. We'll create a PRD, user stories, a database schema, feed data. We'll create a database. We'll create an application, a backend application that will talk to endpoints and some automated testing. Okay. Now they say don't code live, never, but let's give it a try. If something goes wrong, we'll fix it on the go. Okay? So let's get to it. First, you can clone these. You can clone this repository And what you will do, what I will show you is this specific notebook, okay? Now, in this specific notebook, this is a mini lab, very, very mini lab, that can help you guys through the process of, again, going from a high-level problem to a backend application. Now, there's something important that you should know. This requires a .env file with an API key that I, of course, for obvious reason, will not provide. I cannot make my APIs public, but there is a guide here on how to generate your keys. Okay, so there's a guide on how you want to generate keys. You can get access to some keys, some API keys, but again, I will not be sharing the keys for obvious reasons, but I will walk you through how to get this lab working locally in your computers so that you can create a very nice backend application. So let's get right to the fun stuff. Let me share. Again, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll try to move as fast as possible. Okay. Okay. So, first, let me show you what was created. Okay. I'm using VS Code. Inside VS Code, what we're going to cover, what we will cover in this mini lab and in depth in the course is how to use whether Chat GPT or Chat Copilot, but I will also show you how to use a Gemini Code Assist, including like all different functionality, maybe how to connect some tools and MCP servers. Now, for right now, this is the actual lab, the notebook. The notebook is comprised in 7 different steps. Okay? In the first step, we are going to be setting up our environment. This environment uses this file, utilities.py. This is the file that you can use. This is open source. I created it, so you can use it. And this utilities file, what we'll do, as a matter of fact, let me show you something. Let's go here and let's start using Chat GPT here. Just ask, explain what utils.py is. As a matter of fact, I have it in context here. So what this file is for, okay? In few words. Now, the good thing is that, again, this file, you can download it. It's, again, open source. As it says here, it's a helpful library. I'm including different functions in here. I will refactor in a few days, where first, you can use an assortment of different models. These are the state-of-the-art models nowadays, okay? Including different providers from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and of course, open source models like Hugging Face. Okay? There are functions in case you don't know what is the best model to use. So what are the attributes? I have a function here to recommend models that we will use in a second. It also has several functions to load your environment variables, again, including your keys, setting up clients, and every provider. We know it's a hassle, right, to set up a client provider for if you want to use OpenAI or Google or Anthropic. Each of them have a different configuration, right? So I'm making just simple for you to set up clients depending on who is a provider, okay? So again, if the provider is OpenAI, this is how you set up the OpenAI client. If you're talking about Hugging Face or talking about Google. So anyway, different providers, but this makes it easy for you. And I'll show you in a second. Also, if you want to start passing over a prompt and get an artifact back, we have this get completion that, again, depending on the provider, will give you an answer back. Okay, so very, very easy, so that you can use multiple providers and do not have to be concerned about, okay, what is the format output for each provider, and then get it in a variable that you can use. There's also super cool functions for vision. So if you pass over an image, you can get description of the image. And we have been using this get vision completion because we pass over screens that we generate with artificial intelligence. We ask for the React code associated to that screen. So we pass over to the LLM, in this case, the ones that have vision capabilities, and we ask something like, hey, produce the React code for this page, or for this screen. Now produce it. I will show you some demo, some projects that others have done where you can see these live. Then there are also other functions to generate images. There are functions to for speech. For example, if you want to modify an image, you can pass an image with a prompt and make modifications. And we use that very often because sometimes we produce an image, we don't like the color. Maybe we like to add a button or a field or change the font. And the only thing we tell the artificial intelligence model here is, hey, take this image, this screen, and add a profile icon at the upper right, okay? And it just pretty much modifies it. It's really cool, right? Especially for the UI design. Some other tools that are really cool is sometimes people or individuals, they don't like to type. So there's also here another function where you can speak or you can pass over a WAV or an MP3 file to the model and it will transcribe everything. Right? So instead of like writing the prompt with all the requirements and everything that the customer wants, you can pass over a WAV file, transcribe that for you, and boom, you can feed that as context to generate your artifacts. All the functions here will be this one, clean LLM output. You know, for the ones that have been working with ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Perplexity or Cohere, you know that when you ask something like, hey, give me a markdown file, normally it says something like, hey, here is your markdown file. And then boom, the markdown file. And then the bottom, hope this helps, right? But sometimes we don't need all that extra wording. So this clean LM output, what we'll do is we'll clean it up depending on the specific programming language you're using. If it's SQL, it will just put together the SQL code and save it as SQL. If it's JSON, just the JSON code and save it as JSON. So that you don't have those extra tags and all that verbosity and noise that you have to clean up manually. There's a prompt enhancer. Sometimes, you know, we need a prompt to be enhanced, be more detailed, and you don't want to write all that down, right? So you don't want to write a very, very long prompt. You may want a prompt that is simple, that is a one-liner or two-liner, and then from that produce a more comprehensive prompt that will help you, of course, create better artifacts. And I think that's it. And then just to load and so on. So there are other helper functions. So this is a file that we are going to be using in here. And first, let me show you what has been generated so far, okay? You'll see that one thing that has been created here is the PRD, okay? There was a business problem at the very beginning. This business problem was, I don't remember where was it? Our company needs a platform to manage remote teams and its members to collaborate on projects and share files securely. Again, just random problem. From this random problem, this artifact was created, okay? Very detailed, okay? I will not read all of it for you, but it has a scope with a solution overview with some key features, some constraints, some user stories, some functional requirements, and conclusion. This PRD was produced in seconds. We'll produce one intro. I will delete all these and then we'll do it from scratch. We also produce out of that a PRD model in Pydantic, right? We are also producing, based on that, the user stories, okay? I mean, right now they're like, you know, these very, very long string, but there are several user stories here. From the user stories, we have produced a SQL schema. From the SQL schema, we produced some seed data. Okay. From the seed data, we produced an entire database. From that database and schema, we produce the backend with endpoints. Okay. Now let's test it, right? So if we deploy our backend application, I can go to this port, HTTP request. We'll do a get, and how to know which methods I have? It's because we have them in this main.py file. Okay, so we'll do a get users or a get projects. Do get projects. Okay, send and okay, and now we are able to return projects. Again, this means that our backend works. Okay, let's say users. Hopefully it works because I've not tested it earlier. And for users, okay, look, there's an error here, and we'll fix those errors using Copilot. Okay, so I did get an error here, but again, I will fix it. We'll fix it when we code these entirely projects. Let's say we get one, send. Okay, now let's say that we want to post something, right? So I can easily go here and ask one of our different models here, say, produce a sample JSON to test this one here, the project post, to test the following endpoint. Okay. Now I'm just using here, and we're going to be testing our endpoint. And again, don't worry, right now we'll produce everything from scratch. Okay, so let's copy, let's go here, we'll do a post, projects, body, raw, JSON, and let's see what happens. So let's send this over, voila. Now have project ID 3, have projects 3, get, let's retrieve all of them. Okay, send, and now we have our 3 projects created. Okay, so it works. Now you might say, you're cheating. You had like weeks to create these. Well, let's put it to the test. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete this app delete folder. Oh, wait a second. First, let's stop this process here. Let's close the terminal. Let's create a new chat. Let's close this one. Let me delete this app folder. Delete. Move to trash. We have a series of artifacts here that we will delete. Okay, let's delete all these files. And I'll create everything from scratch, okay, including the tests. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you the tests, but we'll include the tests. Okay. So, and by the way, let me get rid of the README file. That README file was just the localhost right here, the requirements.txt. Okay. So fingers crossed. Let's hope that all this works. Okay. The labs that we do in the extended course, of course, they are more comprehensive. We create more artifacts, we ensure more validation tests, right, to make sure that whatever we produce actually works from the get-go. Okay, so, and this is the question for you. Okay, let me know. Oh yes, okay. So I will get to the question in a second here. So I will need from you something specific. I need you to give me a business problem. So this is a sample business problem, but I need someone to give me another business problem. Let's start a brand new application from scratch, so that like the magicians, right? So that so that I prove that there's no cheating here, right? And you will get access to all these, right? Now, while someone comes up with a simple problem, it's an application we're going to build. Okay. So in the chat window, please type some sort of application you can think of. Okay. And we'll work on that one. Now, going back to Yohai, is how does this process work with production use cases where you're not creating a new application, but adding a new feature or functionality to existing applications? Well, pretty much we will cover this in blocks. Okay. We'll cover this in blocks. And when I actually with chat, nice. So we'll cover this in blocks. And every block can be inserted at any point in the software development lifecycle, because in reality, what you will do is you will generate artifacts locally that you can link to any GitHub repo. So, for example, if you're already connected to a GitHub repo, you can easily ask to change something or to add a feature or to add additional functionality. You can ask to review the entire repo, to add documentation. So that. So we have three options. We have data error validation framework, bed and breakfast with a chatbot, application to analyze a security report and recommend products and services to remedy. Okay, so let's go with the last one because it sounds challenging. So I'm not sure how this turned out, but let's start with this one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I will start leveraging here in my Copilot. Now, look at this. In Copilot, you have three different options, okay? You can ask, you have agent, and you have edit. The agent will make modifications and will look at different files in your repository to do the corresponding changes. So, for example, if I am doing some changes in this notebook, and those changes require to install something like a library or maybe make changes in my helpers file, it will do them. Okay? When you ask, there's no action. It's just like a chatbot. Now it takes context. Now, if I do edit, it will not run commands like installation or deployment, but it can help you edit specific files that you specify. Okay? In this case, and by the way, you can also configure your models. You can request for GitHub Copilot licenses so that you don't run out of credits and you can pretty much have unlimited use. You can ask for an assortment of models. So I will ask, please draft a business problem to solve out of the following statement. Okay. So I just ask this question, I will replace it, and then we'll start moving forward. So something to keep in mind is the environment setup. I will show you how to use the util files, but we'll not, of course, for the sake of time, we cannot have it in detail because of lack of time, but I'll show you how to use this. So let's copy all these pieces of text here. There's actually quite a lot. And now we have our company needs. Okay. Okay, so let's take this. Okay, we have this quote. Let me restart the kernel. Let me clear all outputs. Let's start line by line. So here we'll just be importing library. As a matter of fact, we can do like these recommended models table so that you can take a look at what different models available that will go over a class. These are different models available that we'll be exploring and using. Part of the intention is that you can experiment with different models. All of them have different capabilities and different kind of quality. For example, I can say that DALL-E, when you try to create images, they are like a little bit cartoonish. But when you want to generate with Qwen, that's really good. Same for stability AI, stable diffusion, really good. So anyway, and depending also the size of the context you want to pass, there are models that allow you huge context windows, like 2 million tokens for Gemini Pro. There's some that are a little bit smaller in terms of context window, like GPT-4o. So depending on the context, you will select the best model. So now we're going to store our business problem. Now, based on the business problem, what we want to do is we want to have a problem statement, okay? We want to generate a concise problem statement. And here you can add things like, pretend you're a product manager. We can enhance the prompt, but again, for the sake of time, we're not doing that. So now let's figure out what is the problem statement. So develop an application that efficiently ingests, analyzes security assessment reports to identify and prioritize vulnerabilities based on risk and impact. The application should automatically recommend suitable products and manage services for remediation, provide security. Okay, all these. But then we need to create personas. Who will be using these? Who will be using these application, right? So given the statement, we need to generate a list of personas. Who would be interacting with the solution? We're generating the personas here. Right now, we're using GPT-4o. The copilot on the right will use it more often in a second. So we have these personas: security analyst, IT security manager, the CISO, IT operations manager, compliance, and a few others, like 12 different personas. A little bit expensive, but maybe you'll say, just give me the top 3, right? Now we need to generate a PRD, okay? So using the prompt here that says, I will pass over the personas, the prompt, I'll generate, on the personas and the problem statement to generate a PRD. Now, the PRD, I'm saying here, I need it in Markdown, okay? Don't give me the text. I need an actual PRD, okay? Which if you see in artifacts right now, it's empty. So this one's empty, there's nothing in here. So produce a PRD in Markdown and save it here, okay? Then what we want to do is to create a PRD model that includes the structure of the PRD, okay? To make sure that the PRD has everything that it needs, like features and stuff, okay? So let's run this line of code. Right now it's generating the PRD. So this PRD, and right now, if you see, we have the PRD just in Markdown. Now we have, if you see here on the left, now this has been created. This PRD document, which is fantastic, right? Just in seconds. Design to analyze the reports, which you already know. It sets the objectives. Here's out what are the key features, some personas and user needs based on what we had earlier, and a little bit of conclusion. So the PRD was set up really fast. The good thing is that you can modify the PRD as well, like manually, or you can ask the Copilot to change the PRD for you. So it's been generated, but I can also ask something like, I would do agent, I will pass the right context, which is the PRD. It has been generated. And I'll ask something like, I don't know, something like extend the objectives and application overview. Okay. So what it should be doing is pretty much updating the PRD to expand. So you can, in principle, ask inside the code to extend and expand, but you can also add it here. But the cool thing is it will make modifications and will ask you if you want to keep them or not. So you'll see the different modifications and you see it has more objectives. We can keep them and done. Okay, so that's cool. That's a PRD only. Now we want to make sure that we create all the user stories. Okay, here we're just saying a set of user stories, not all of them, again, for the sake of time. We're passing over the gate completion function, and then of course clean it output so that it's parsed as JSON, and then save the JSON file in the user stories artifact. Okay, let's give it a second. And again, so far you're saying, well, we have generated JSON files, Markdown files. Well, the question is, would it be possible for us to generate SQL files, run them, and then name a database? The answer is yes. Okay. So we have the different user stories, and we have these user stories here. We have different user stories being generated, okay, in Markdown form, in JSON. Okay. Now, we generate a set of user stories. Okay, so I'll delete these because we already have it. Then we want a database schema. Okay, the database schema to be built in SQL. This will be SQLite, which is the engine I'm using for Python. We're going to be generating here first from the user stories the database schema. Then we're going to clean it up to make sure this is SQL format. We are going to be running it, okay, and then we're going to be creating some seed data, okay, that we can feed directly, and then just pretty much run the SQL schema, execute the script, and then populate our database, a platform database that right now we don't have. So let's start running these. We'll be generating the SQL schema that I've used here. It's not being created anymore. Give it 1 second. Just absolutely right. Okay, so let's take a look. So the database schema has been created. Okay, we have UCID, reports, vulnerabilities, relationships. Okay, we have created database schema, but remember, you can enhance. Okay, I'm just going to something real quick, but you can enhance whether through a more comprehensive prompt or directly here. If you see, we have a database schema created. Okay, or so you can do it directly in the schema. You can do it directly here by having a better prompt, or you can ask your agent to modify your database schema. Either or, okay? So a database schema created, we have some seed data, right? Some seed data over here, and we should have a platform DB with our tables populated with some sample data, okay? Ooh, seconds. It took seconds. Okay, well now becomes the juicy part, right? The endpoints. Let's create the code that can help us talk to these schema, and then let's test it, right? So we have all these. Now what we need to do is to generate the fast API code with SQL Alchemy and Pydantic models. Again, remember, you can always change this code, okay? And we're going to save that in the folder app. Okay, so in this folder app, we're going to be saving our main.py that will include all our endpoints. Now, I want to also make sure that that we understand that right now we're using ChatGPT 4o. ChatGPT 4o is fast, but in my opinion, is not the best one. Okay, so during the workshop, we experiment with DeepSeek, with Claude Opus. We experiment with Gemini 2.5 Pro that take a little bit longer. So if in this case to produce the problem statement, it took 6 seconds, with others might have taken maybe 30 seconds. Okay, so this is not the most advanced model, but again, good enough for these. Okay, so we have database schema. Okay, we have our endpoints. Oh, endpoints here. Okay, Now, do you see we're using Python here in the main.py code, and we are putting together also a README file. So we have the README file here that explains pretty much how to use the different endpoints. Okay, let's take a look at our main.py file that has our connection to the database, our models, analytic models, and we have some endpoints. Now, let's test them. Okay, so let me let this open. Let's open a new terminal here. New terminal here. And let's do the app, which will have our endpoints. Let's deploy endpoints. Unicorn is a way to deploy endpoints using Python, but this applies to any programming language. Okay. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Okay, so an error happened. So let's open a new chat. And normally I would just go and look at the error in detail and ask, a very, very specific question. But again, because of the sake of time, what I will do is I'll say something like fix the following error. The process typically is because you really want to know what the AI is doing. You want to first have the compiler to explain the error. And after explaining the error, to make sure that you understand it, and then ask more significant questions. So like, hey, just fix this, okay? Because at some point we don't know if it's like opening maybe a port, if it is creating some vulnerabilities, right? So let's keep, okay? Let's close this connection. Let's open it again, and let's see. Okay, it seems that we don't have any problem anymore. Runs, okay? So skip because we already run this. So this is good. So this is a repo, so it should be really cool. Now let's go and test it. Give it a quick try. So let's open Postman, and you can use it in curl as well. Let's see what endpoints we have created here. Let's go to an endpoint where we can get the users. Get users. This one, get users. Get users, send. Okay, so we have another error. Okay, let's do the same thing. Let me open a new chat so that we don't keep garbage in the context. I will do fix. Same. Fix the following error. Fix the following. Okay. And let's allow for it to fix it. Most likely it is related to, let's take a look. Passwords, SQL Alchemy, offset. Okay, for users. So apparently there's a column that doesn't exist, or it's like renamed or something, right? So let me put this. Let me run this command here, based on the suggestion here, and let's pass it over to the AI. Say this is the output. Okay. And HoloFix will test a few endpoints just to make sure that the backend works when we deploy it. And then I would like to showcase some of the endpoint applications that we have worked out in some of the cohorts. Okay. So pretty much just updating. Right now we have some updates to be done. Okay, so yeah, it seems like for instead user underscore ID, it's modifying this one. It tells us here what are the different changes being done. Yes, service ID users.id. Yeah. because that's pretty much what we have in the database. If we look at the database, users, where's users? Users, we have ID. You want to have users underscore ID, some kind of a problem over there. So it's patching everything, updating patented schemas, and let's keep the file. Let's run this command again. And hopefully, our endpoint will work. Now, let's reset it again, send. Now we're getting the different user IDs, the different users. I know that we run really fast, but if you see in just a few minutes, just very few minutes, we went from having a high-level problem, like very, very high-level problem, to creating a series of artifacts. You know, your main file with your pydantic models, with your endpoints. But by the way, you can add tons of different endpoints here. This is just an example, right? You created your PRD model to make sure that your product requirements document complies with some format. We created our PRD. We created a SQL schema. We created seed data, for example, that was populated in a database, in a functional live database. Out of that database, we created the endpoints and we tested them, getting the right answers. So users, let's say 1, send. We should have a delete function as well, but anyway, we are running out of time. So this is just a very, 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 very small part of everything that can be done. You can totally use this code. You can run your own experiments. Remember that you need to set up your API keys first. Code, where is? Okay. So remember that this is one, this is else. So let me just share. In order for you to use this, and I will create a README file that actually works because it's associated to the project that we created. You have this notebook. You have the requirements txt, which is what you need to run this mini lab. However, in the full-blown material, there is like way more to cover, okay? Everything from doing a detailed review on the setup so that you can modify the setup, maybe bring another of all the providers or add more functions. We create our PRDs, user stories in detail. We organize everyone in teams. Something important that we didn't do today, but sometimes you don't know which is the best architecture to use. Should I use Go or Python or Rust or C#, or should I use SQL or Cassandra, or what databases should I use? We put together an ADR, architectural decision record, that can help you put together your architecture, and we produce diagrams, actual diagrams, like architecture diagrams I'll show you in a second. Then we do all the development. But the development also includes refactoring and documentation, which we didn't cover today because of the amount of time. We do also automated testing. We're on PyTest with automated testing and reports. And out of those reports, we generate a report for vulnerabilities and improvements. And then based on that, we improve our code. We also cover agents, agentic AI, so that we create agents with the right context, with the right prompts, with multiple models, with MCP and A2A, so that instead of just running these lines manually, you can create an entire workflow, right, for a sequence of nodes that will run. And then in second week, we build applications that are AI native, that have AI included. We go through RAG, with LangGraph, we go through other frameworks like Crew AI, small agents from Hugging Face, um, agents from OpenAI, um, AutoGen from Microsoft. Then we start going over model context protocol, A2A, a little bit of vision, right? And the cool thing is the capstone. The capstone is you are given one full day to develop an end-to-end application. Front end, back end, deployment, Docker, GitHub Actions, everything. Okay? And a fine day to present. So these are some very cool projects that some individuals have, some other groups have created. One, they want to do like a movie and TV tracking platform based in Fast API. So it's really cool because if you see from the different artifacts they produced, they had, what are those artifacts? So they had some UI mockups were created. So this is the mockup created by the AI. They say, okay, based on this mockup, we want to produce the front end of an application. Within their artifacts, if you see they have an image explanation, right? What is created, the actual image that was produced. They produce in documents, the ERD document, very comprehensive with the persona, stories, the architectural decision record that explains what would be the the different components that would be used, the vulnerabilities report written the code, also a comprehensive set of tests, right? And of course, the application itself. Okay, you see they produce their all their schemas. They have data. They have actually, some of fact, all the code that they used, and this is how they produced it. They ran every one of these labs, so you can see all the process and everything that they have been generating. So they have the AI code, and in the end, they were able to produce this application. Now, if you want to try it, you can easily download this repository, and in your, you can preview the static files, the front end, using npserve. That will just serve the React components. But if you want to, those away in Docker container. But if you want to try another full-blown application, there's this really cool inventory management system that has multi-agent support, has the back-end, front-end, and this explains how to actually run all your application using Docker. This integrates chat, autofill, a lot of artificial intelligence. And believe it or not, these projects were created in one day. I'll send over the links so you can take a look. You can download the repos. You can experiment with them. So this is where you'll follow yourselves. So this is the one that you can follow up to yourselves. Okay, this is the one. This is the mini lab. And this is the one that you can follow up through yourselves. And these are, again, some of the projects that some teams have created before. Now, with that said, I just gave you a quick overview on what we cover in terms of weeks and time, allocation, and just think about how much solutions like these can affect your work. I mean, whether if it's software engineering, of course, the focus is software engineering, but this extends to pretty much any business process, okay? If you're able to use your copilots in the right way, mixed with API calls, mixed with a good understanding of your project, mixed with your subject matter expertise, you can create amazing products in no time. Amazing products with high quality, great documentation in no time. So I know we have a few minutes left, so I would like to open it for for questions. Otherwise, we cover some patterns here, right? So I'd like to open for questions. I think we have a question. Daryl, have your hand raised up. Okay, good, good. So yes, Dipanshu, yes, it's that file is here because you need the utilities file. You need to require the requirements, right? Just to make sure that it runs. So this is where you will find it. Mhm. Excellent. So if there are no questions, I really hope you enjoyed this webinar. You now have something useful that you can apply right away. You can download the code, try experiment, and maybe looking forward in seeing you in the extended bootcamp. So Alex, I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really great. As someone with limited technical background, the demo focus sessions are always so interesting to kind of view myself. So I just wanted to share something really briefly for those that might be interested in some additional webinars. We have two coming up in the month of September. One is more for data scientists, excuse me, focusing on the Microsoft data stack. And the second is more focused for data engineers. So if you're interested, you can register for those on our site. And then I had some follow-on courses potentially if you were interested for continuing this learning journey. In addition to a QR code, if you happen to have your phone near you, you could scan this and be redirected to our contact us form on our site. You'll be reconnected to a SME. We can hopefully reassign you to somebody that will be able to answer any questions you might have in regards to training. With that said, I also am going to highlight, we will share the recording of this. I think I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the session, it would go out today. It will probably go out early next week. So just to be prepared for that to come to your inbox, we'll share the recording. And I do have the 3 GitHub links, so I will also include that in the email for anyone who has not been able to grab it or did not grab it. So that will be to follow. But again, Armando, thank you so much for this session. And thank you to everyone that joined. Really appreciate it and hope to see you in future ones.
Hey guys, have a good
Thanks,
one.
everyone. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.